Hi, this is the Bit-Mage. It's been some time since we've talked about Emacs. You can never get enough of Emacs, so we're going to talk about Emacs again. This time it's going to be Emacs for your Python operations. Uh, now that we've covered somewhat generic stuff about Emacs, I think we can start getting into specific workflows. Of course, the general wisdom, distilled insights will keep coming your way. But for now, we're talking about Emacs for Python. This is going to be first of many specific workflows that I get into. Uh, I am a wannabe polyglot here, so this is just the first one of these. And let's get right into it. Before we get right into it, these are my contact details. Uh, yeah, you can hit me up on Twitter, or I do have a blog where you can just hang out in the comment section. I do ramble about stuff there. The comment section on YouTube as well, I'm pretty active there. Anyone post something, I do reply or make it a point to see that, yeah, you get relevant responses out there. I mean, right now, yeah, we're 289, I think. We're 289 strong. So it's going well. I mean, let's see. Let's see how it grows. But yeah, thanks for hanging out, guys. This one's about Emacs for Python. It's going to be a practical one. I'm gonna move around a lot of buffers, so let's get started. Okay, so why Python though? Why Python is the first thing that I'm getting into in the specifics. Let me first get that context things out. Okay, why Python? Well, it's the glue that kind of holds it all. And professionally speaking, if you want to be quick and dirty into getting anything done, Python is something that you can rely on very easily. You always have the libraries, you always have anything that you need to do. It's got an interpreter, so you can be fairly, I mean, hackish in the modern sense, not the old elegant sense. Yeah, you can be fairly crude in the ways that you do things. You can also be structured, but then I usually rely on Python when I want to get something done quick and don't need to worry about if it'll be compatible with whatever other things that I'm doing. So Python is something like that. Python is the glue that you can rely on. You'll be sure that it sticks. I mean, it's not going to be a well welded joint, but then you can be sure that it sticks. And yeah, it wouldn't give you issues in the long term if you have uh, stress tested it enough, or if you're not using it for production purposes. I mean, of course, like this is something for another time, but yeah, Python is something like that. It helps you prototype quickly, so that's why we're discussing Python first. What are we gonna do? I come I do regularly program in Lisp, so interactive programming is something. I mean, nothing beats Line, but being interactive with programs is something that is important for me to have a good programming experience. Uh, all the chores that go with all your Python stuff, your environment management, how to use LLMs, uh, how do you interact with the REPL, that sort of stuff is what we're going to get into. Uh, I'll also talk about how I use Python generally as well in my workflows, not just for Python operations, but just in general as well, managing my flows. So that's going to be one thing. The setup, I am using Doom Emacs. So there's a module right away. Anytime you need a module, help on module, you just hit space HDM and you type whatever you want to get into. So I want to get into Python. You get all the information about what you want to install in that particular domain that you're working on. So this is something that you can always rely on. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through my config file. So this is my config file. But then this is where you would adjust whatever packages you install. We have setting variables and stuff. But what you're going to do is first you need to go to the init.el. That's where you find this Python uh, block in your doom hash doom exclamation mark block. So your doom exclamation mark block, and in there in languages is probably where you should find it. Let's see where it is exactly. It is in your lang block. So yeah, the lang tag is where you will find this particular file, and go ahead and activate LSP, Pyright, and Conda. I activate Pyright because if you don't, you'll have to use PyLSP. That's the Python language server, and I find Pyright to be more snappy and faster. It's better for me. So see what works for you. And as always, you can rely on space HDM Python if you want to get in the details. So they get stuff done. I mean, anything you need to about the flags and all that sort of stuff, you can just go in there. If you want to know more stuff about a particular package, you just see what package is being used and you just Google for it. That's what I usually do. It's a pretty handy thing that has worked for me at all times, and I do miss something that has made a lot of things convenient for me. If you're coming from Emacs, I did use Emacs for vanilla Emacs for a good 3-4 years, and I used to manage all of it with Street. So there should be one of my old Emacs configuration files lying around somewhere. I did use Python then as well, but I'm not going to get into that right now. So I mean, it is possible. Just yeah, uh, if you're using that, understand that how you can convert whatever I say for Doom in here for vanilla Emacs. Uh, Now that I'm saying I'm going to use Conda, LSP, and Pyright, you just go into the documentation out here and let me expand everything. If you see uh, the module flags, it just shows you exactly what packages it's going to enable if you put in a particular put in a particular plus tag. So if I enable Conda, it's going to use this particular Conda package. If I hit enter, it is going to open that for me. So it probably opened that for you in another window. Yeah, it should be up now. I'm going to go back to my original desktop. So I hope you did see that. I think that was like two, not here, three. Yeah, three. Desktop number three. So you should see that right now. So it's going to pull up what exactly are you looking for, and you can just go to the Emacs wiki or check out how to set that stuff up. So again, with LSP, what you want to do is I recommend you use Pyright, and if you have Conda, you wouldn't need a PyEnv or Poetry. So Conda is something that is being tested out for data science. It's battle tested. I use Mamba via MiniForge, by the way. So yeah, I mean that's something external and don't need to dive into the details for that. But with LSP, I would recommend you don't choose PyLSP, PyLS. I recommend you go for Pyright, and if you do choose Pyright, you do not have to. You might, yeah, just look at the installation stuff. Uh, you would also need your LSP flag enabled somewhere, and that would be in your init.el. Somewhere you would need to enable LSP. Yeah, it's in your colon tools tag. So LSP plus P is what I've enabled. So once you have this, now you can start getting into actually doing stuff. I use MiniForge and that exposes Mamba or Conda, all sorts of things to you. Uh, to pull up a terminal in Emacs and you want it to be Conda aware. So the exact configuration that I use is this particular thing. So this will be there in my configuration file. It loads all your shell parameters and stuff related to Conda, your env manager and stuff into Emacs. When you boot it up, I mean, I do actually boot. I don't boot into Emacs yet. Sometimes I feel I should try that out. I mean, I should just yeah, boot directly into Emacs, like put Emacs into the bootloader. But yeah, so this is what you do when you start Emacs to actually get Conda working. And once you have that, you can have Conda env activate this particular interactive function active for you. So if you hit that, you can see all of your environments that you're working on. I'm just going to stick to base right now. Once you select that, you're fine. Any relevant uh, things you invoke, say for example, opening up a IPython REPL or a Jupyter REPL, it's going to be in that particular environment. So it's pretty handy out there. I have everything installed, Pyright and stuff. I have everything installed. So now that you know what you need to get, we can start getting into yeah, we can start getting into how I actually do things. So I like working in Python files. I'm not a I mean I am not a Jupyter notebook person. It takes a certain mood to be that interactive and detached from Emacs. So I have experienced some cognitive dissonance when it comes to Emacs and data science. But yeah, it's taken me some time to actually get comfortable and and efficient with Emacs and using Python. So if you're uh, if you're using any experiment trackers or if you're an AI person, I would recommend you look into TensorBoard, Wisdom, or right now what I'm looking into is AIM. So it's I'll put the link in description. So for all my AI experiments and stuff, AI engineering is a part of what I do professionally. So all my experiments and stuff, anything that I test out, anything that I debug from model perspective, my MLOps stuff, it all goes into an experiment tracker like this. So that or that plus MLflow. So yeah, it goes into something like that. That is something. That's why like to keep my programs and my results separate. You can keep them together. That is something that you can do via literate programming. So literate programming, or to put it more explicitly for you, using org mode to have documentation code in the same place in Emacs is something that is a different experience altogether compared to your usual programming experience. For now, describing the usual programming experience, let's just create a simple file. Let me get rid of the config for now. I am going to I already have one file, but I'm not going to rely on it. I'm gonna just say I create test.py. Uh, I think yeah, and now now this is a basic Python file. This is not the yeah this is not the default Python interpreter that is going to be used because we have Conda activated. And how can you see that? Look at Conda base at the left tab's bottom middle. So Conda base is activated. If I hit Conda Env activate and I choose yeah, another environment, now you can see Conda Llama index. So this is how you manage your environments. Now, if I wanted to create a REPL in this particular buffer, uh, let's just write something first. Yeah, let's say I wanted to test something out right now. What I would do is either you could first either run it by just Python and the file name in the CLI. I yeah, let's just do it right away. I am in that particular directory. I'm gonna delete track for now because let's clear the clutter out. Now I've test because I'm in the base environment as needed. And by the way, I invoked that particular Vterm buffer by space OT. If you want an Eshell buffer, you can hit space OE. I particularly like Vterm when I'm working with Mamba or Conda because you can switch with environments. Eshell Eshell I use in a ephemeral manner where I don't want state to be carried with me. So, and it also moves around based on the buffer you're working in, whereas the directory of your vterm is going to be persistent. So, when I'm going for persistence, I use vterm. So that's why I had space OT. And the usual way of working with Python is going to be just hit Python test. It prints test. Now, that is something that a beginner would be okay doing with, but given that we come from an interactive programming experience, so like something like Slime. So I mean, the legacy is kind of too good to ignore. So you probably want for an interactive program experience. I have hooked space MPR to open up an IPython REPL space MPR. It opened up an IPython REPL in the right. I'm going to clear my old history. Yeah, now if I hit space MPS, it's just gonna execute whatever I had in there in that REPL. So this is how you can emulate Jupyter cells. So let's say, yeah, so if I wanted to execute this, I just go space MPS and it would do that. And by the way, you could also you also have access to all your usual stuff, your pop-ups, your I mean your jumps here and there. Let's say I put x equals, yeah, whatever, print, yeah, okay, yeah. So there's this basic highlighting as to where your variables are, that sort of stuff. That basic stuff is out there. It's a literal showing me the literal what it is exactly. I can space press GD, and like I can hop to where it actually is. I can go to the definition of print by pressing space GD. It's showing me what I should actually look at. There's multiple definitions of print, so I can select one and hop out there. I can import that project for now, so I can look at stuff. I'm going to hop out for now. So yeah, that basic stuff that you need out of an editor is there out of the box if you hit those flags right. Python LSP, Pyright, and Conda is something for NV management, but you can get stuff done without that. So that stuff is there. There, we're not going to talk about that. Uh, when it comes to executing, now the beautiful thing about this is this interpreter is decoupled from your buffers. So it's not attached to the same file as it is in a Jupyter notebook. Your Jupyter kernel is only where you can execute the code. So if I wanted to create another file, I'm going to create test2.py. So this is a different file now, and I hit say x. I want to observe this particular variable x in here. Uh, because they're connected to the same terminal, I could just hit space mps here. Okay, I didn't define this here. Yeah, now it's defined. I can hit X in here as well, and I can observe the same variable. So for example, if I'm working with libraries, it's pretty convenient like that. I don't have to define stuff in the same way. If let's take yeah, define a basic function, hit it, and we're gonna execute it in another buffer. And there we get the answer out there. So it's pretty convenient to work in different buffers as well with this. And if you're working with a lot of libraries and stuff, and if you don't want to import stuff right away, uh, yeah, rather than having imports when you're like being crude with everything, you could just have a single REPL opened up and quickly experiment. You can also go in here and type stuff and see what's happening. So that's one thing. This is how I interact professionally with Python. I mean, I don't like opening up Jupyter notebooks because I mostly work with, even if I'm working in an AI aspect, it's mostly uh, NLP oriented right now. And even if I'm getting into computer vision or any stuff like that, even with NLP, if I'm like fine tuning or training something, there's graphs and stuff. So for that, I do use experiment trackers. But yeah, that is I like to keep my results separate from my code. I mean, right now it's like 3 layers. So my text output is out in here in the IPython REPL. My source code can be in multiple buffers. It can also be in an org buffer, by the way. So I'm just gonna create another test.org file, and let's say I wanted to just send any text out here as well. I'm gonna hit space mps, and it'll send the value of that. By the way, remember that this is just a plain org buffer. So this is just text. I can just hit 30 plus 232. I hit that, and it's going to go there. I'm not in an org source block. So this is going to be an org source block. Here I can do stuff and hit CC to get the results right away. So yeah, it's going to give me the results like that. So org Babel, this is something different with literate programming and stuff. But I can literally interact with the REPL in any way that I want and generate output. So for example, I could also write functions that write Python code and execute those. So I could put something in here, say something like it returns a string that is executing some Python code. It did this, and then I'll not need, yeah, I just hit this and it prints X. So I could do all sorts of weird stuff because this is just buffers and this is just text. And if you've been following me for a while, when everything's just buffers and texts, uh, it's all pretty convenient for LLMs to pitch into. And okay, so let's get into it. Weaver and Python.org. Yeah. So my ideal setup is I like Python files. So I mean I'm not into Jupyter Notebook and stuff when it comes to like being professional with my work. So we'll do a specific Emacs for data science video soon because I understand Jupyter Notebooks can be pretty convenient and helpful. But then yeah, so there's that. We'll get in that soon. But for now, yeah, Python files is what I am usually after. And having a live interpreter to debug and see what you're dealing with is kind of handy. Uh, what I do for completion, code completion, a lot of people, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff out now, like this cursor, there's all sorts of frameworks. I mean, in the end, it's all text. So the good thing about text is LLMs are good at interacting with texts because they're just yeah, they're easily interpretable as tokens compared to say having another type over the whole thing. So by type I mean uh, having a specific, yeah, rather than working in its own init protocol uh, to display things or anything like that, it being just text helps in interoperability with other AI stuff. So, for example, what am I talking about? I'm going to open up, I use GPT-EL by Karthink. So I'm going to open up a buffer and I can ask it to write some Python for me. I can execute that in the same REPL. Uh, Write a function in Python for uh, quick sort. Or let's go for memoized Fibonacci. Something like this. Oh, yeah, I don't want it to be. Yeah, let's do something like this. At space as gh, and it generates the function. So I don't know if it used decorator functions or whatever, but yeah, yeah. So it generated the code for me, and it's given its explanation and stuff. So that's the usual LM stuff. I can directly execute stuff from here itself. So I can hit space MPS, and it will be yeah, it will be initialized on this particular thing. So if I hit, it's there in my, yeah, 10, it's giving the answers. So that's that. No need to worry about that. I could also execute the whole thing. This is not going to be executed because we're not in the main thing. So it's not going to be executed. I have to go independently. That's there. So I am in an org mode. I generated stuff via org table, via any of your GPTs. I'm using 4O Mini, I think, right now. And I can execute it directly in my particular interpreter as well. And the good thing about that is I can now call this function for now temporarily in, yeah, in my scratch buffers as well, and it's going to be executed. Uh, in the end, when you do actually push this for deployment and stuff, you will have to actually collate these somewhere in a common file and do something like Python run that file. But yeah, when you're quickly iterating, this is kind of a pretty handy thing for me. Other than LLMs, I also rely a lot. Okay, I am not big into having code completion baked right into the buffers that I'm working with. I like copy pasting things and okay, I might even say diff stuff for me. So let's show that to you. Yeah. So I got a function definition out here right now. I could also just want to say add more comments or explanations and stuff like this to here. what I do usually, I'll write the basic scaffolding or skeleton of the whole thing. I like to converse with code mentally while I'm like typing it out and not rely on the LLM completely. Once I'm done, if I have a I the way I do it is like I like interacting with it. Say, for example, I might go with GS. I'm calling GPT-EL right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna want to ask for a refactor with my with my directives going to be generate only code. I want add helpful comments. I'm gonna send that. Now it's gonna do its own thing. It's gonna return with a response. Once it does, I'm gonna get a prompt somewhere. Space the output is ready. Space IGM. I want to continue with my refactor, and I'm going to continue as an E-Diff buffer. So now in my particular E-Diff buffer, I can see what all comments it has added, what all it has done. And if I type question mark, you can see all the shortcuts to interact with these buffers, saving the left or the right one, cherry picking results from here or there, what you want to add in. So this is something that is pretty handy. So it also augmented some of them. It added a bunch of lines here and there. Let's say I want to take it from here. So I press B, takes in that particular cherry picked thing from buffer B, that is the GPTL diff to my buffer A. Let's say I want these. This is and equals. Let's say for the sake of just showing this, I want something out here. Now I picked it from B, and I'm gonna like save it so I can just press WA. It wrote the whole thing test2.py. If I wanted to, I can also save the whole GPTL diff output. I'm not gonna do that because that's not useful. I press Q. I'm gonna quit this ediff session, and I have my LLM responses integrated into this meaningfully as I wanted. So it's not an actual Python file. Yeah, now it's an actual Python file. So this is how I actually prefer interact with LLMs. Uh, what next? I mean, code. Yeah. So completion like that is one thing. I mean, if you know what you want to do and if you don't want to type it out, I also use snippets. So snippets is another extension that I particularly use. You can just go to your init.el and I'm gonna search for snippets. This particular thing in the editor tag is what I use. Again, as I have been mentioning again and again, hit space HDM, okay, space HDM, and whatever thing you want to look for, editor snippets. So all that you need to know about it is out here. It's using Y snippets, and yeah, it is context aware, by the way, so that's nice. I'm gonna go back to where I was. Let's say I want to if I wanted to insert a Python aware snippet, I could just say space is, and it is going to give me all the Python stuff, Python snippets that I have. You can also register your own snippets. Let's say, for example, I want to create what do I want to create? I want a length method for a custom class that I'm writing. Let's say I wanted to do that. I could just type in len, and it'll insert that particular definition and put me in the next line for that. So that is something that I do when I do need to do something like that. There's all sorts of stuff. You can also have your custom snippets. So I already mentioned that. I mean, there's a list comprehension out there. So I think you could replace that pretty easily as well. Search for x. I want to be like a variable. Okay, no. Search for x. I want whatever. Yeah. So I mean, all sorts of things that you can do with snippets. I prefer it more than code completion because okay, Python is already just too simple. It's like already like closing towards pseudocode. So yeah, I mean, why do you want to natural language at this point when programming in Python is more of a hindrance. It's a bigger abstraction than Python itself is what I feel like. So yeah, when you're actually dealing with code, there's an extent to which natural language helps, is what I feel. So I mean, yeah, LLMs is something that I use in a not in a reserved manner I want to say in a reserved manner, but then I would say uh, I wouldn't insert them where they're not needed. I wouldn't force their usage into my workflows because they can be a productivity loss as well if you don't know what you're doing. I mean, I've been using Open Engineer for a while, and it does well if you're specific enough with what you want. And if you're just going to be like very abstract and generic, it doesn't play out well. So we talked about snippets, we talked about AI code completion, we touched upon LLMs. My overall recommendations, I mean, I think I also talked about this. LLM shouldn't handicap you. So whatever language you're using, we're talking about Python right now. So whatever language you're using, I mean, try being a little proficient in how you converse with your code. Uh, there is definitely a lot of good things that LLMs do, and there's a lot of benefit to using them in your workflows. But then if you rely only on them and you're ignoring all of your technical details of the whole project, you're going to be finding yourself maintaining a whole bunch of code that you don't know, and it's going to get dirty pretty quickly. So that's my recommendation. A last thing on snippets, they are context aware. So I was in Python then. Now I'm going to be in org mode. Org mode. If I had space is, it's going to be org. It's going to give me org mode relevant snippets. So again, because of Emacs, you do not need to learn any new shortcuts. Picking up the bindings for any particular language out there or anything, it's going to be very easy. Emacs is like the perfect language for any Emacs is like the perfect environment for any polyglots out there. Uh, Polyglots not just in the sense of computer programming, but just in the way of understanding and interacting with text. So interacting with text in a high dimensional manner, uh, abstract planes as well. So that is something that Emacs is good at, and yeah. So if if you put in some general investment into understanding it, it's going to pay off later on in terms of helping your time in picking up things in just all the sorts of things that you try to pick up. I think we're closing. I think we're getting close to the end. Uh, I'm going to close all the unnecessary buffers. We talked about LLMs, my recommendations. Okay, so this is my local setup. I am using all of the stuff on my laptop. A nice tip would be to remember to use spaced HDM with whatever module that you want to get into with Doom Emacs. Doom Emacs is a pretty nice configuration, and any contorted configuration that you want for Emacs, it's probably just a module flag away and a couple of module flags away. So that's why I shifted from vanilla to Doom Emacs recently, and yeah. My configuration files will be linked in the description. They're on my GitHub. I maintain them and they're like pretty up to date. So whatever I'm having right now is the one that you'll find out there. Uh yeah, I think this is it. Uh in the videos sometime soon, we will talk about how you can work with remote stuff in Emacs. Uh Searching into stuff with Emacs Tram, using Emacs for other languages. I mean, I also actively use Golang, and of course use Common Lisp. I might have an active series on Common Lisp again. I did have one before, like way long ago, but then I never actually got to completing it. So I might get into Common Lisp again. Uh, yeah. So Emacs is something given some initial investment is going to pay off in dividends for your life. You cannot evaluate the amount of time and effort savings you're gonna get if you get efficient in Emacs. Fine. I think that's it for now. So that's my Twitter. That's my blog. Do check out my blog. I do rant about normal stuff, abnormal stuff, ordinary stuff, potentially extraordinary stuff as well. And see you in the next one. This was the Bit-Mage. Thanks for being patient. I haven't been posting in a while, so I should be regular fairly quickly now. And yeah, that's it. That's it for today. See you in the next one.